Hi class, and welcome to week 3 of HSA 6103. So this week you're responsible for reading chapter 3 titled The Evolution of Health Services in the U.S. You're also responsible for completing your discussion board assignment that's based on the LearnScape scenario titled The New System. So once you enter the discussion board forum, you create the new thread. Now you've already written your assignment post. So for this specific assignment, you'll be putting together a recommendation. After you go through the LearnScape scenario titled The New System, which just to make sure we're all on the same page, the LearnScape scenario or the LearnScape learning tool is not the Navigate that comes along with your textbook. So what I requested for you all is a bundle. So you have your textbook along with the LearnScape tool that is bundled up with it. Okay, so just make sure you're using the right learning tool for this assignment. You will have all week to complete it. So the discussion board forum will be open from September 5th all the way through September 11th, which is Sunday. Remember, you will be posting your recommendation post as well as responding to 2 of your fellow classmates. So I expect your response to demonstrate that you have read their post and you put thought into the response. I do not want short responses such as, "Nice job, I agree with you." I need to understand why you agree with their recommendation. Okay, so I want you to get the gist of what I expect. All right, so now I'm going to scroll through this week's contents folder. Again, just to describe and go over the materials, information, links, as well as videos provided to you for this week. All right, so let's get started. First is the PowerPoint that goes along with your assigned reading. And then I have a table here that covers the evolution of the U.S. healthcare delivery system. This table is from page 83 in your textbook. And it really touches on how from the colonial times to the beginning of the 20th century, we've had the American medicine lagged behind in the advances in the area of medical science, experimental research, and it kind of takes you through a description of each era. Okay, so here we have mid-18th to late 19th century. And then here the late 19th to the 20th century, and then late 20th to the 21st century. Now, I also wanted to note the 5 main factors that explain why the medical profession remained largely an insignificant trade in pre-industrial America. And these 5 reasons were because the medical practice was in disarray, the procedures were primitive, the institutional core was missing, the demand was unstable, and medical education was substandard. So regarding medical education, we're going to be going deeper into it next week when we talk about physicians and physicians education and all that. But those 5 main factors, I definitely wanted to touch on them. Make sure you read more about it in the textbook. They provide a description of each one in a more detailed manner. And then another very important point that's covered, or factors that are covered in this week's chapter, is the factors that impacted the transformation that we see in the medical profession, again, from the mid-18th to late 19th century all the way through the late 20th and 21st. So what kind of got this transformation going? First was urbanization, all right? So there was an increased reliance on the specialized skills of paid professionals. People were leaving their families and their neighborhoods where family-based care was traditionally given, and they were moving to the cities. Urban development attracted more and more Americans to the growing towns and cities. Really, it had a lot to do with finding work. So physicians moved to cities and towns in large numbers to be closer to this growing market. Then we had science and technology. So this is where we look at groundbreaking scientific discoveries. So we have the discovery of anesthesia, the birth of aseptic techniques, as well as the discovery of antibacterial properties of penicillin from Dr. Fleming. And then there was also institutionalization of medical care, which was a very important factor in this transformational process. Fourth is dependency. A patient depends on the medical profession's judgment and assistance. And how this dependency is created is because society expects a sick person to seek that medical help and try to get well. The dependency is also created by the profession's cultural authority because its medical judgments must be relied on to legitimize the person's sickness, right, by diagnosing them and people accepting that diagnosis, exempting the individual from social role obligations, such as going to work or going to school, and providing competent medical care so the person can get well and resume his or her social role obligations. All right, I just wanted to touch on that topic of dependency. Now, autonomy and organization is the fifth one. And then sixth is licensing. So in the 1870s, when the Medical Practice Acts were established, medical licensure in the U.S. became a function of the states. Okay, and this is through both licensure and upgrading of medical school standards, physicians obtained a clear monopoly on the practice of medicine. Last is educational reform. Now, the reform of education really started in the 1870s with the affiliation of medical schools with universities. I wanted to touch on those things. Now, of course, these points are covered in the chapter in more detail, as well as in the PowerPoints. If you have any questions, be sure to email me. Now, I'm going to continue scrolling a little further down just to touch on the LearnScape learning tool. So here's some information on the LearnScape learning tool if you have issues after entering your access code accessing the scenario, the new system, which is assigned for this week. Below that is the discussion board forum. Here is instructions on what the assignment is, so what your assignment post should include. And in this case, you will be writing a recommendation with an analysis of the information gained from the team members, and you outline key points of a change management plan corresponding to your recommendation. I also have a couple of questions here on your experience using LearnScape regarding this specific scenario. And again, this assignment is due September 11th. Now, I do have a couple of videos that really enhance the topics covered in this week's assigned reading. So let's start going through that. First is a short video that talks about the U.S. healthcare system and just touches on a short history of the U.S. healthcare system. Below that is a video on the modern healthcare system. Again, if I'm not mistaken, it should be between 5 to 8 minutes. And here is a video that talks about health insurance. And last but not least is our weekly checklist. Be sure to complete everything on this checklist before going on to the following week. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to email me. I'm here to help. Best of luck, everyone, and I look forward to reading your recommendations on the LearnScape scenario titled The New System. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.